morning. This is Jaiko here, and you are here with Sensational, the Seasons Sister Soul Cast, where I have a group of my soca, my sisters of a certain age, who are really going to bring it on this topic tonight. We are talking about abstinence. Y'all, abstinence is making a comeback. Believe it or not, as time goes by, people are starting to appreciate abstinence more and more. I know, I'm shocked too. But a few statistics. Young adult males 18 to 24 reported sexual inactivity within the past year rose significantly from 18.9% between 2000 and 2002 to 30.9% between 2016 and 2018. That is the latest I was able to find on that. So that's a significant increase. Usually over time, we see these types of things decrease, but something is going on out there. Young adult females 18 to 24 reported sexual inactivity remained more stable, 15% back in 2000, 2002 to 19%, but still an increase. More young people are choosing to abstain. We're seeing a trend here. Now, virginity at the age of 30 among young adult males, the percentage of virgins rose from 4% 2013 to 2015 to 10%. Pretty significant. And for young adult females, the rate increased from 5 to 7%. Still somewhat consistent, but these are still relatively low. But as far as at age 44, it is expected that 95% of all Americans, male or female, will have had premarital sex. 95%. So only 5% of adult Americans, 44 and older, have not had premarital sex. So we're seeing what is the norm, but still there's a trend going on where people are starting to appreciate it. A lot of people are crediting that with abstinence only education, but in the research that I did, it seems like states that have abstinence only education have more teen pregnancy and teen deliveries. So I can't go with that argument that that is working. However, I'm also hearing more and more mature women saying that they're abstaining. Maybe they have been sexually active in the past, but they're making the choice to abstain from this point forward or for a period of time. So let's get into this. I got to hear what my soca sisters have to say about this. So I'm going to open it up to them and I'm going to be chiming in as well. You know, I'm going to. So first, is waiting until marriage the way to go? Sister girl, yes.
I'm going to say, I will say that it is the way to go, because I think too often there are just too many items that can become an issue. First of all, a lot of folks are not emotionally mature enough to actually have that sort of a physical encounter. It's that intimate encounter with someone and be able to move forward. A lot of us can say there's becomes a lot of irrationality when you have actually become intertwined that way, and then you expose yourself to sexually transmitted diseases, early pregnancies, and just sharing spirits with someone. It's not just an exchange of bodily fluids. It's not just a coming together. You're exchanging spirits, fluids, emotions with this person. And I think you have to make sure that there is a level of maturity and a lot of discussion that has to go on before you actually delve into such deep matters. Also, of course, the way the world is now, you can see any and everything that you want to just in the palm of your hand. So then there is early exposure to it, to different sorts of intimacies that in the times when I was growing up, you didn't know nothing about that. You had to peek in somebody's window, to see some of these stuff or these things, or stay up real late on cable and watch HBO real late. So, but it piques the attention of immature minds, and it does change desires or open up to desires that people are not really prepared to actually emotionally deal with. So I think it's very dangerous, and it lends itself to the lack of self-control. People
Okay.
feel like it's okay, everything is okay, and everything isn't okay. So yeah,
All right.
what I
So
have at this moment.
one for wait until marriage. Now, I would also ask maybe, well, I'll hold on to that next question. I'll hold on to that next question. Songbird. Yes, ma'am. Let's hear, weigh in. Is
Okay.
waiting until marriage the way to go?
I 100% agree with everything that Sister Girl has said. Um, the joining of spirits and the um, just not being emotionally prepared, and not even just that. Like, I know I say to my grandson, we talked about. He was talking a little bit. He was 13 years old at the time, and he said something, and I'm just all in it. I'll be in the business. So I said, "Boy, you too young. You too young to be doing that stuff." And the question that I had for him was, "Are you ready to be a father?" Because if you're not ready to be a father, then you shouldn't be having sex. Period. Because that could be the consequence. That is one of the consequences. And I know that the society right now is like, it's like, if you're not having sex, then something's wrong with you.
Right, right.
But I 100% agree with abstinence. Beside the fact that that's, what God planned on. That's how God's plan is. That's what God's plan is for us.
Thank you very much. That's real. Are you ready to be a parent? We're hearing all of these consequences. So I want, as we move forward, if somebody can weigh in on a lot of people who have the thought that maybe you should wait, but it may not need to be until marriage. So if somebody could add that dimension as they come forward as well. We're going over to Yaya. Hello, Yaya.
Hi. Um, I don't know if I can answer the second question, but I raised my hand because I really wish that I was given the opportunity to make the decision to remain abstinent until I found the person who God meant for me to be with for my life. Um, because that wasn't the case for me as a virgin, as a young person. Um, a young man forced himself on me, and um, it is sad. And when I think about it, it's sad that I didn't have the opportunity to make that decision myself, for myself. Um, Definitely, I was trained and knew that God did not mean uh, for us to be, um, just whimsical and just carefree with our bodies. That our bodies were in fact temples, and that we needed to respect and um, honor them. However, at that age, it was not It was not something in the forefront of my mind. And I happened to have, I did get pregnant um, from that first episode. So I was I was traumatized because I was not aware of what had happened to me. I did not know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was pregnant until after I had an abortion. So I didn't know what any of that was, and what that did to me growing up was it did allow me to feel like it's okay for me to just go and experiment in areas where I was not prepared. I was not ready to to make decisions like that for myself as a kid, as a young person, a very young person. And I didn't have the sense to ask somebody. So an adult, someone that I trusted or, could advise me. So I would love to just, and because I believe in God, and after that experience, I would say abstain. Abstain until you know yourself
Mm,
and the other person.
wow. Wow. Do you know yourself and the other person? And thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable because so many people share that experience. So many young women did not have the choice, whether it was somebody they knew, somebody they didn't know, somebody who was a loved one, a family member. That choice was taken. But I just am grateful for the healing, the fact that God makes a way for us to be healed and he purifies us in a moment. And so I am grateful for that. I also would just say that it's so important for us to hear that there are other people who have gone through things that we've gone through. That's why I'm just so grateful that you shared that because it can be so isolating to feel a trauma and that you're working through things. And what you did, how you responded, is common for young women who have been exposed or have had similar experiences early. They felt, okay, well, I've already had sex. So I, I'm I'm free to experiment. Or unfortunately, some feel that they don't have a choice and whoever wants to be involved with them physically, they allow it because they have lost their sense of autonomy over
Yeah,
their body.
yeah.
And
I did not feel um like I was worthy anymore. I felt like I was trashed, or
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It just the way we're raised, especially in my days, I'm 60, almost 66 myself. And in those days, the elders would look at a person, a young woman, especially who had sex before marriage, as something that was taboo, something that was wrong, something that was dirty. And that indeed seeped into my spirit. And I allowed myself just to be involved in things that otherwise I probably would have never, because I mean, we've spoken before about how healthy our families are, and I come from a really strong and healthy and loving family, but that I know that that did do that to me because of the kinds of decisions that I made um, for some years after.
I would also say, just, you said you didn't have sense enough to ask, or, just as you talk about the decisions that you made at that time, I would also just offer this. Just as if you're young, you're not mature enough to be involved in sex, like we've been discussing, when you're young, you also aren't sophisticated enough to process these types of things. So you were
Definitely.
just processing it the best way you knew how.
Definitely.
And no one gives us a pamphlet. Okay, when this happens to you, this is what you do. And we don't have that emotional intelligence at that point. So that is just a natural response. And these thoughts, though unfortunate, like feeling the unworthiness, I'm damaged goods and things like that. Women feel like that about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is natural for that to happen. And for a young person, what option would a young person have but to not talk to somebody about it? Who wants to talk to their mom about something like that when you didn't even understand what happened? That's not going to be the common response. So your response was quite common, and it was not unhealthy. You were just doing the best that you could at that time. So even as you reflect, I would just offer maybe to use even more words of love and understanding toward yourself at that age, because you were doing the best you could and you made it, and you did not become somebody who's out there selling their body or tricking for drugs. And that may seem extreme, but that is what often happens when women have gone through things like this at a young age, and that did not become of you. So I mean, congratulations on surviving that and being healthy, being able to talk about it. That is a huge accomplishment. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Keep on being out there healing people. Military mama.
Yeah, I just want to add to the first question, not the second question.
Yes, ma'am.
The reason why I think abstinence is important. Well, as I've lived some years now at this point in my life, and I'm looking at stuff backwards. But the reason why I say that is because sometimes the younger generation, when they have sex at an early age, and I'm speaking from experience from one of my girlfriend's daughter. And she was so in love with this guy, and they had sex. She was like 16 or 17 years old, something like that. And, because of the way that he made her feel, sexually. And when he broke up with her, she couldn't handle it. And she's a lesbian now. She said she just didn't want to have anything else to do with another man. And I think it's because she had sex too young at an early age. She did not, understand the effects of it. Once he left her, she was totally devastated to the point where she just didn't want to have anything to do with another man. And I thought that was really sad. Even though her mom sat and talked with her and everything, she still, right to this day, just don't want to have anything to do with another man because of what she went through with the first guy when she was like 16 or 17 years old. So that's why I think it's important to, yeah, just wait, but they're not going to see it that way, but yeah, it just kind of made me think, like I said, I've lived, now I'm 63 years old, and now I'm seeing how important it is, to actually wait. It is very important because you can put yourself through so much. Yeah.
And I think it's really important, and I hope young people listen to this, because we are not people who are speaking theory or just being preachy. We are talking about what we have lived and gone through and seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a lot. And one thing that I think is difficult is that our bodies start changing at like 12 years old, some younger, some a little older. So your body is preparing to have sex, to have children. Even if you think about in the Bible days, Jesus' mother was 14. And we don't talk about that. Marriage happened younger centuries ago. Well, not even centuries ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Depends on what culture you're in. It's happening today. But marriage happened younger. So young people's bodies are saying, hey, I'm ready, I'm grown. But our society is saying, you don't have a job, you don't have an education, and these are the things that you need. So you have about a good another 10 years before society says that you're ready. And so I do acknowledge just the difficulty of going through those years where your body is saying one thing, but society is saying another. We're not going to be letting our 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds get married. We're not going to do that. They may say, we're in love and my body's raging. But that's just not how society is. So I try to be compassionate and empathetic. And of course, being a teenager myself, by the time I was 12, 13, they were like, you still have heard your wife. You still on the island. Woo, she's a bee. They were going for it. And that pressure is out there. Like we heard from Songbird about, talking to her grandson, his peers, they're already sexually active or pretending to be. And then telling each other, yeah, you're supposed to be out here. You're supposed to be doing this. And it's very difficult, but we have to continue, as you all are doing, stressing. This is not a game. This is not a game. You are making a life or death decision by getting out there. You could be getting into parenthood. You could be getting into diseases that you will never get rid of. You could be shortening your life. There's so much to it. And we look to hear some more from you. Military mama, she keeps it lively. All right.
Because I was just sharing with a friend of mine earlier, those pregnancy scares. One was not enough to make me stop having sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that information, what I can tell my daughter is, let's get on the pill. Let's do this. Let's do that. I'm behind you, because the only thing that doesn't guarantee pregnancy is abstinence. That's what they say. But, we know what we can do. That if you just want to jump in there and make mistakes, then I'm going to take you in your hand in mine. Let's talk about it. Let's do something about it.
And it's wonderful that you can have those conversations. As Yaya said earlier, sometimes the older generation looked at us like, you did what? And, they kind of frowned upon you. Then sometimes you found out they did the same thing.
Well,
but I'm, we're not going to get into all of that. But a lot of times.
I'm glad you said that, because I will share this because of someone who is on this line. I shared this story with. The first time I got pregnant, and I was like, I can't do this. And I had scheduled an abortion. I had a miscarriage 2 days before it was scheduled. But in my mind, I still did that. And being a cradle Catholic, that messed me up for a long time. But you come to terms with, if you believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm so right there right now. God knew that I wasn't ready. That's how I felt. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I felt. And he took that, but look, I was going. Did I have a fever? I was trying to share this with my daughter. That was some years ago. I can't remember why it was delayed. But like 2 days before, and I had a miscarriage. So in my mind, I still had an abortion. And to be able to share that with her and let her know, if, whatever decisions, we can make them together. So important. But these things they come with time. They come with the experience of us as being parents and being able to share these things with our children. And the most important thing to me is being honest, because I had told her I had had a miscarriage, but I was never truthful about the whole truth.
And not to say that you always have to
No,
divulge
no.
everything. Some things it's not, you're not being untruthful, you're just being more private about some things, and you're deciding what you're going to share and what you're not going to share, which is
But
totally fair.
that truthfulness of that exact part opened up a gate that would not have been opened up. You see what I'm saying? I'm learning how to
Quite.
be painfully, totally, truthfully honest. So if I'm gonna tell you a story, I got to tell the whole truth.
Well, and that's your choice, but you really can choose to share to your comfort level. Your being
Exactly.
truthful
Yeah.
doesn't obligate you to divulge everything, because even in our being truthful, we have to be prudent and understand even
Mm.
some things may not even be best for the other person to hear. You see,
Yeah.
or something the other person may not be ready to hear. So I'm just encouraging you, sometimes when you are being truthful, you're not obligated to expose everything for your own good or for the other person.
You're absolutely right.
You're not
Mhm.
dishonest for deciding what you're going to share and what you're not going to share, because in that case you gave the facts. You gave the facts. I had a miscarriage. To go further is a choice of yours, but sometimes what our conscience is feeling a certain way about is not always the best thing to inform how we behave, okay, or what we say or what we share. We have to think about what's best at that time for everybody. But what's in your conscience, sometimes that's just between you and the Lord. And at a certain point, if you feel that it would be expedient to share, then that may be the time. Or there just may not be a time to share that with your child. It may be something you share with your sister friends and things like that. But thank you so much. And I just really appreciate the transparency that everyone is offering. Now, one thing I do want to say is sharing something on behalf of a friend of mine who waited until she was married, and I do see hands. And he was determined. He said, I'm not dating you, I'm courting you. I want you to be my wife. We're going to do it the right way. And once they got married, he still didn't want to have sex. And over the years, and they were married almost a decade, and that was constantly a problem, that he did not want to have sex very often at all. So they were not compatible in that way. And she suffered with a lot of pain and rejection because of that. So a lot of people argue, well, is abstinence really the right thing to do? Because you don't know if you and this person really are compatible or not. And that is a case that I've, through a friend, talking with her and just walking through that period of life with her, it was extremely difficult. So just wanting to bring that counterbalance and see if anybody has any thoughts about that, even though I do know there were already a couple of hands raised. Back to you, sister girl.
One thing that I think that's really important is that is just being able to have conversation, to be open and honest. So you have a conversation with your partner. I think that's important to have deep conversations with the partner, so that situations like that, at least you can kind of put them on the table. What is the real reason for you not wanting to be intimate? Now, if you don't want to be intimate just simply because it's your honest belief, or there may be other things behind it. There could be some trauma behind it as well. So I think having open, honest conversation is important. And I think being honest, or with your conversations with boys and girls, because people feel differently about boys and girls and whether or not they should have sex before marriage.
Yes, they
or not,
do.
and what the freedom is around that. And we both know that. I mean, we all know that that's very biased. Matter of fact, I can even say in my own thinking, with my boys, it wasn't so much of a of something that was on my mind until my daughter came around. And so then it's great conversation all the time. And I will say that she's very honest. She always has a lot to say about it, more than I want to hear, more than I want to talk about. I'm trying to keep my game face on, but she's traumatizing me. And she believes strongly that you should abstain. And I think I'm grateful that that's the position that she has. And she'll fire people up for it. And she's gotten rid of a previous boyfriend because of it. So she's holding to her conviction. But being able to have the open and the honest dialogue, I think it is important. I do think that there are some stops because in our day and age now, some people do a whole lot of conversing with their kids. I think they expose more than they should. I mean, maybe that's old school in my thinking, but my daughter is not my friend. I love her, but that's my daughter, and she'll always be my daughter. We can be friendly. We can have more decent and open conversations. We can be more chummy, but that's still my daughter. And I still think that there should be some I don't want to say level of separation, but I can't
Some
think of a better
boundaries, some boundaries set.
yeah, better boundaries. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Back to military mama.
Okay. I don't think that we should tell our children everything about what we've done in life. And that's where that old saying comes from, do as I say, not as I did, or not as I do as I say, because the older you get, the more experience you get. We all have done some crazy, stupid stuff back in the day. I would never tell my children all the things that I've done because I want them to think that I'm smart, even though, and I know everything, even though I don't know everything. I want them to think that, because I just want them to be like, to be at a point in their life where they would think, like, oh no, my mother would never have done a thing like this. You know what I mean? So I've done some stuff back in my day. Heck, I grew up in the hood. We all done so. I smoked marijuana, me and my sisters. We lived. We lived, but my children don't right to this day know that I've ever smoked marijuana, and I will never tell them. Never would I tell them that mama used to get high, her and her sisters, because children have a way of just throwing stuff back at you, especially if they do it and then you try to talk to them about it. They don't want to hear that because the first thing they're gonna be like, well, you did it. Then what
Good
can you
point.
say at that point in time? But I did. I do think that it's good to explain to your children, yes, I did it. I knew that it wasn't good. If a situation like that should arise, yeah, I did it, but it wasn't good back then, and it still isn't good. You know, Sometimes if your children find if you are to the point where you think you want to tell your children everything that you've done, then just be prepared to explain to them why, because they definitely gonna throw it back at you. They will. Yeah.
That's a great point. That is so real. That is so real. And a lot of times they may lose a level of respect for you because they are not
Mm-hmm.
mature enough to say, hey, we're all human. I'm still respecting mom, even though she had her journey as a woman. They're not going to understand it because they're still beginning to embark upon their journey. So they're
Yeah.
not going to be able to maintain that respect necessarily. There may be some judgmentalism. You know how we are when we young, like, she this, she that. And remember
Mm-hmm.
all the I never woulds that we said, and then
Mm-hmm.
as- so they're sitting there and that, I would never do. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mama. Ooh, she's something else. It wouldn't be me. And then 30 years later, they're like, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Woo!
I
That's
look like,
how that's why Mama talked to Mr. Joe like that, you know.
uh-huh. Yeah, I'm telling
So
you. Like I
yeah.
used to sit around with my parents all the time because of course I'm the youngest and I had to be with them all the time. And I used to always listen to my mother and her girlfriend, one of her girlfriends, and they would always say these little cliches about guys like uh um the person who loves the least has the most power in a relationship. And if you ever really want to know how a man feel about you, make him mad. Like they used to say all these little cliches, and and I would just sit back and listen to them. But I see now what they were talking about, and it's funny that we should be talking about this because I was just telling my girlfriend the other day, which she's dating someone that's a lot younger than her, and she's like, I just don't ever know where he's coming from. I said, girl, make him mad. So I use what my mother said. I said he will let you know exactly who he is when he's angry. Make him mad. Right? That's what I said.
That's-
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I
Do
tell
not
you, I
try
don't
this
know.
at home, people. Do not
You want to know who a person is? Just make them mad. And they'll show you exactly who they are. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just some crazy stuff but the one that sticks with me the most is the person who loves the least in a relationship has the most power. And I found that to be true as well. Yeah.
You need
But
to send me that. That just needs to be a whole show. We need to
yeah.
talk about these these cliches right here, but also the other ones we've learned because I've heard a lot of things from the older generation that was passed down, and it was like now I get it. Now I get it.
Hmm.
Some of them I will not try, like
Yeah.
that making a mad pie. I'm not gonna try that, but because I feel like eventually I'm gonna make you mad anyway.
Anyway, yeah, and you'll know who they
I'm
are,
gonna
won't you?
create that
Hmm.
opportunity. It's gonna happen.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
just give me time. I'm gonna make you mad.
Oh
But
yeah.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Now, has any of you decided either until marriage or just for a period of time, I'm going to abstain? Just you can show your hand. No, then I might think you want to speak.
But you know what I've learned? Can you still hear
Yes.
me?
Uh-huh, yes.
Okay. I have not had sexual intercourse in 7 years.
Okay.
And I feel good. I feel good about it. I'm a born again virgin. That's what
I'm
I
not
said. Virgin. Virgin.
yes.
I'm a born again virgin. And I absolutely feel good about it. I really do. And I said to myself, I have a new bedroom set. And I said, the next man to get in this bed, no man has ever been in this bed. And I said, the next man to get in this bed is going to be my husband. No one else will get in this bed. And I'm not getting in anybody else's bed. That's
All
right.
right.
That's
All
right.
right.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. I keep being told I'm doing this wrong, but yes, that. I hear it. I hear it. Any other thoughts around that? Born again virgin. I know that's right. Anybody else choose it? Did somebody here who waited till marriage? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Songbird. Yes, ma'am. Songbird. Are you saying yes, you
Um,
did, or were you raising your hand to speak, or both?
yeah, I was saying yes, I did. I was raising my hand to say yes, I did. I was answering your
Ooh,
question.
we're celebrating. I need to make some confetti or something fly. Go ahead. Go ahead. There you go. Go ahead, Songbird. All
Oh
right.
my! Oh my! Woo!
So how did that impact your married life? How do you believe that it impacted your married life?
Um, yeah, well, we about to be married for 40 years.
Oh, well, all right.
So it was fine. It worked out.
Yes.
It worked out. We actually, from the time we started dating, until it was about 3 years, just about 3 years before we got married.
Okay. That's
So
wonderful.
If he was gonna leave, he was gonna have to leave in that 3 years. I would assume.
I know that's right.
No, no, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I went back to. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, once
I
we
got a little.
in there, we in there because you're gonna be the only one.
That's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I can share that. I really believed in abstinence very much so. And I noticed that the relationships that I had during those years, we just seemed to have such a deeper friendship and such greater communication. It's like the relationship was just more real and more authentic, outside of the fact that I found out they were sleeping with other people. But that's that tiny detail. But the relationship between us was was very deep. Okay, y'all hit me with the laughs, got me laughing. Just that little detail.
No, have you guys okay, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Oh,
but I just want to
go
get this in.
ahead.
I want to get this in real quick because I know
Yes.
time is limited. But do you guys believe in the 7-year itch? Because I used to listen to my mom again and her girlfriends talk about the 7-year itch, about how every 7 years the man will get bored with the relationship. So
Oh, good Lord.
you have to kind of like do something freaky or something like that, to keep them interested. So and I used to hear that. I don't hear it anymore, but I used to hear that all the time. And I just wanted to know if anyone actually really do believe in that 7-year itch. Some people call it a midlife crisis, you know. But yeah, my mother and them used to always go, like the 7th year, then the 14th year. Like the longer you with a person, the more you have to keep their attention.
Mm.
You
Okay.
know. Yeah, so I don't know. I just wanted to ask that question if
I want to hear
anybody
this.
believed in it. It
I've been
believed in
married
the
six
7 year.
years, so I need to know.
Okay, well get ready. Well, look, on the 7th year, get ready to do something freaky in the
Okay,
bedroom.
I
Do
need
something
y'all to
freaky.
work with me on that.
Get ready to do something freaky. They say. Keep the man's attention. Look, girl, I always get on here talking mess, but yeah, I'm serious about that. I heard about that, the 7-year itch. I don't, like I said, I don't hear about it anymore, but back in the day,
Okay.
they used to always talk about the 7-year itch. Yeah.
Uh-oh, sister girl, is your hand raised about this the 7-year itch?
It is.
Okay. Let's
Well,
hear it.
you know what? I don't know, but I will say that that my relationship with my husband was very entertaining. I don't want to traumatize anybody on the line, but but it was very entertaining, and we would be very creative at different times. And just because he was how he was, um, we had a very relaxed and a very uh I want to say we explored a lot.
Okay.
We played a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's been golly, I don't know how many years we would have been married. I'm not even doing the math. Probably about 32 years right now if he was still with us. So, but by the time he passed away, we had been married for 25 years. So but we did have a lot of entertainment. I will say that, and I think we I think we just kind of creatively did different things. At different times in our relationships, we would travel more. We would be more intimate. We would try different things at different times. So I don't know whether or not any of that equated to the 7 years, 7-year itch. I mean, because there were times really when I wanted to kill him. So though I'm not sure how many years that cropped up, but that kind of stayed regularly on the radar as well. So I don't know. That's I would like to hear what other people think about that.
Mm.
I have a girlfriend. She has a lot of sex toys.
Oh.
Lots of. I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
A
Well, I
lot
tell
of
you what,
people do nowadays.
right.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
funny is that my daughter-in-law gave us one time. We we didn't use it because we didn't know what what was supposed to happen with it.
There were no instructions.
Instructions.
Well, I gave one of my aunts the rabbit because she actually asked me for. She asked me to get it for her, and I went straight to the store, got it, bought her batteries and all. Hmm.
Well,
Did and gave it to her. I wonder if she still uses it. I don't know if she still uses it or not. But she asked me for it and I gave it to her. Yeah, I bought her one. Yeah, I sure did.
somebody's itch is getting scratched.
Let me be quiet. Look, I'm talking too much now. I don't have but one aunt. I
And I'm gonna say, I got questions. I got questions.
don't have but one aunt down here.
You know, Lord have mercy. Thank you, as usual, military mama and sister girl.
All
Well,
right, y'all.
I
I'm
think it
signing
is
out. I'm
safe to
tired.
say.
I see
I,
you talking
all
again.
right. I think it is safe to say that we all seem to be on the same page that abstinence is a great choice. A lot of people in this country and around the world, they're very casual with sex. Sex is fun, woo, and all these good things, but it is a very serious decision to have sex with someone. It is emotional, it is spiritual, it is physiological. We even heard about abortion. A lot of young people look at, hey, well, abortion isn't out, but it's really not an out because there are a lot of feelings that are associated with it, and there are physiological ramifications at time as well. So we just encourage everybody to really, really, whether you decide to be completely abstinent until marriage or for a period of time, take your decision to be intimate sexually with somebody seriously. We, as the Seasoned Sisters delegation here, are telling you just some of the things that can happen. But we love you. We want you to love yourself. God loves you. There are reasons that God gives us instructions. It is for our good because He knew way before we even came around that all these dangers were here and how our emotions can be influenced and our decisions can be influenced by somebody who is being sexual with us. And we've even heard about the dangers of some people taking advantage of you sexually when you put yourself in certain positions. Some of us did not put ourselves in certain positions, but somehow when you are in these positions, that people can take advantage as well. And you don't know everyone's intentions. People talk good. Your emotions sometimes have you in a vulnerable position, and it just may not always be the right choice. And that person may not be the right choice. So be thoughtful, be prayerful, and make a decision that is best for you in the right time. Okay, we love you all. Join the conversation, subscribe, comment, send your questions, your thoughts. Let's really talk about this because life is life out here and we need a support system. Okay. Also, join our group on Facebook, SOCA, Sisters of a Certain Age. And if you're not a sister of a certain age yet, follow us and listen to this good old fashioned wisdom. All right. Have a great one. Be blessed.